taking you through my knitting adventures today. It's been a hot second since my last regular podcast. I did do Vlogmas, but I know not everybody enjoys watching that or can keep up with that. Excuse me. I do have a few days that I may direct you to for some of the knitting content that I did do during my extended Vlogmas, because I did go through Epiphany rather than ending it on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day like most people did. I am going to go ahead and also reintroduce myself. It is the first podcast of the new year, so Happy New Year. And there has been some fluctuation in viewers, and so I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows who I am and what they can find on this channel. So like I said, my name is Christy. I am a knitter who lives in Nebraska. We live in kind of east central Nebraska, very rural area. We are about an hour from both Omaha and Lincoln. And so, yeah, we are here because my husband is a pastor, and my name comes from that. I am the mom of 5 kids. They are from 1 to 10 years old, and that is the mama part. And then the manse part is in the Presbyterian church. The clergy home that the church owns is called a manse. So that might be called a rectory in Catholic, or a parsonage in Methodist, maybe Baptist as well. Basically, that kind of sums up who I am, other than knitting mama in a manse. So that is the reason for that. You can find me on Instagram, obviously YouTube, Ravelry, and Gmail as Mama in a Manse. And I would welcome you to join the Ravelry group if you have. So something weird just happened. I'm not really sure why. I think perhaps my Apple Watch turned off my video. So I was saying, if you have any questions about knitting or other things that you would like for me to address, or questions or topics in the podcast, please let me know. I'm always looking for ideas for content besides just what I've knitted. I am going to try to podcast on a more regular schedule, something like once a week. However, this week in particular, I've been trying to podcast since Wednesday, and it is now Saturday. So it doesn't always work out really great for me to podcast when I can. Also, because I have 5 little kids, it is sometimes hard to find a time when there is light, and it's winter time, so the light is even harder, and when they're not like running through the house screaming like banshees. I think that that's most of the administrative stuff. If you did not watch Vlogmas, I am not going to be pulling out finished objects that I showed during that time. Really, the only things that I finished were a few blanket squares and then the Christmas presents that I gifted to my children. However, 3 of the 5 are dirty right now, so they're not really showable. Anyway, I made socks for Violet. Isaac got a sweater. Elizabeth also had socks. Isaiah had socks because he wears socks all the time. And Emma got a hat that I am still considering stealing for myself. If you did not watch Vlogmas, I'm going to go ahead and share with you a few days that have content that you maybe want to watch, and less of the like Vlogmas type stuff with the kids and baking cakes and, you know, random other non-knitting things. I did discuss my Make 9, and that was Christmas 3. So if you want to go back to that video, you can see about the 9 projects that I plan to make this year. So far, I have not started on any of them. I've been very distracted in a good way. I'm very excited about the stuff that I'm working on, but they are not the things that I planned on. So those are my knitting aspirations for this year. I also decided that I was going to make a finish 9 and commit to finishing 9 things that have been sitting on my needles, some for a couple years now, actually. Or actually, only one of them is almost 2 years old. At the end of January, it will be 2 years old. No, No, it was 16. It'll be 3 years old. That's even worse. Most of them were things that I cast on earlier in 2018 and just didn't finish them for whatever reason. And also, I had 2 sweaters that I started, one Black Friday and one in December during Vlogmas, but I didn't want to put those on my Make 9 just because I felt like they were breaking my knitting rules. You can hear all about my Finish 9, and also I believe that day is the day that I kind of went through my yarn organization because I really needed to clean that out. I did end up with 539 skeins that I counted up, not including any partial skeins. It didn't include like mini sets. I didn't count as a skein. I did count them like a set was 1 skein. So I will talk more about that later. That was Christmas 5 was when I talked about Finish 9. And then I kind of did a year in review. I went over both my crafting goals and my, sorry, that piece of hair is driving me crazy. My regular goals and my crafting goals and then how many knitting projects that I went over and stuff. And I did that on New Year's Eve. So I don't have any faux to share with you today because like I said, I really only finished a couple of blanket squares and then the Christmas presents that I already gifted, most of which are dirty. And I asked the kids to bring me the other 2, but it does not look like they did, so. I'm drinking out of my Knitting Unicorn Knit Picks mug. It's one of my favorites. So I'm just going to jump right into whips after I take another sip. And the first one I can't show you a lot of. So I am doing a test knit for Prairie Girl Susie of the Prairie Girls Knit and Spin podcast. And it is going to be part of a collaboration, which is why it is secret and has not been released yet. I am using Malabrio yarn for this that I got when I went on my knitting, well, not my knitting, wrong tag, when I went on my Preacher's Wife conference with my friend Ashley back in March. So it is for Kansas, and I'm going to make these socks for my mom. I had hoped to like crank out the test knit super quick before Christmas and be able to gift them to my mom on Christmas, but that did not work out. I think that it's probably safe to say, because most, if not all of her patterns use the, I call it Eye of the Partridge. I know it's Eye of Partridge, but Eye of the Tiger, Eye of the Partridge is exactly why I call it that. Here is what the yarn does look like. This is the bottom of the heel right here. So I'm not giving anything away. I did kind of say when I got to that, then I would be able to. So the Eye of the Partridge is like a heel flap and gusset type thing if you are not aware. And I will let you see that part. So I normally do the frustrated 4-year-old upstairs. I normally do a short row heel. And so a heel flap and gusset, I'm not someone who really loves picking up stitches, just to know who I am. And all of those decreases make it seem like heels take forever. I can do a short row heel in probably 30 minutes, pop one in. And that's including all the distractions that I usually have. What are you doing? Mommy's podcasting. Fi, close the door. Can you go play in a different room then?
Go ask him to open it for you.
Okay. I had to make sure that he wasn't naked because often he is. He's wearing underwear.
Okay.
So doing a gusset seems like it takes forever. It was about 2 days of knitting to get them in. Not all day, every day, but 2 days of before I could get through the whole heel flap and gusset. It might have even been 3, truthfully, because I just finished the gusset on the second sock last night. I am knitting these on a size 1 Chow-gu. I was knitting them 2 at a time, which was not the best choice for a test knit because of course it takes longer because you're making 2 of them. I know myself and know that I am better at finishing socks if I do them both at the same time, and then they're both done and I just have to weave in ends or give them to my husband to weave in the ends because he's my end weaving in fairy. But doing the heel flap and gusset, I did separate them because I don't know how to do that 2 at a time without it being a completely tangled mess. And I didn't really want the extra weight hanging from my hands while I was working on one and the one was just like hanging out further down the cord. The thing that I am telling myself though is that had I just done a short row heel, I would have been right here. So I've put on another inch or 2 of the actual foot of the sock just in completing the heel. And so I'm actually much further along than I would be having put in a short row heel. So I keep telling myself that so that I'm not like, oh, gussets, because I'm interested to see how these fit differently. My mom does have bigger feet than me, so I made sure that she did like the pattern before I knit further for her. I'm wondering if this, also the eye of the partridge is kind of like a thicker, it has the slip stitch detail on it that makes it kind of thicker on the back of your heel, and so I'm interested to see if she likes that better than the pair that I have given her before that had a short row heel that were too big for me. So anyway, I am further along on those than I would be if I did a short row, and I do kind of like the look of it. Of course, it's really squished up right now because I just got finished with it. And there's quite that crease where the heel flap ends and you start having stockinette. But those are going well. I did have a few hiccups in the beginning. Those have been worked out. That's exactly why designers have test knitters. And I'm hoping to finish those in the next few days. It is due on the 17th, but I think that her main thing was she wanted us to get through the heel. So I am very much excited and looking forward to the time that, excuse me, I'm sorry. Looking forward to the time when I can actually show you those socks. And truthfully, even though I know that they are a collaboration and I've used my sleuthing skills to figure out things, I am very excited to see what the collaboration is. And yeah, see this come to fruition for her. So that was my first thing. The next thing is a completely unplanned project. I've had this one for a couple of years, and excuse me for just a minute. Sorry about that. We had some noisy kids making lots of noise. I'm hoping that it wasn't coming through really terribly for you, but it was making me insane. So a few years ago, I guess it was probably 2 years ago, we had visited my friend in Peoria, Illinois, and I checked out a obviously new to me yarn store in Peoria. It was called the Fiber Universe, and they had a beautiful shop sample in there. And I don't think that I realized it at the time, but the yarn that was used in the shop sample was knitted by the dyer of that yarn. but I fell in love with it. It was the Dancing Cranes Stole. This is by aland.com, and the authors are Shui Kuzinski and Benny Farrell. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing either of those correctly, and I'm sorry if I am not. They used Silken Kid. So obviously this is a black and white. I don't really know how much you're going to be able to see, but she made the shop sample was made by Munchkin Mama on Ravelry, and it was rainbow and beaded. So I purchased the yarn that she had used, which is Silken Pearls Lace in Epic Rainbow. It's 100 grams. It says it's fingering weight, but I think it's supposed to be lace. Yeah, because 100 grams of fingering weight is not 875 yards. The content is 80%, 80-20 merino silk. And it is by Neon Unicorn Studios. She has 2 websites on her tag. One is on Etsy and one is just a .com. So here's the tag that was around it. Oops, sorry, there's another string. So this yarn is a rainbow gradient, and basically I'm using this pattern, and when I say using, that should be in air quotes, because I'm actually not really using the pattern, at least in the beginning, because so many of the things have been changed. I did use the notes that Munchkin Mama made on her Ravelry page, which were very helpful for me. I did buy the same seed beads that she uses, which are size 6, silver lined. I think hers might have been shiny, but mine are matte. I don't know if it would be helpful to actually see them. They're little. They have silver in the inside, so they kind of catch the light. So I used all of her notes and then adapted some of them. So she did cast on about 20% more stitches. She used a much smaller needle than the pattern. I believe she used a 3, and it calls for a 7. I actually am using a 4, so I'm not even following that. I did cast on the same amount as that she did. She also used a provisional cast on and then immediately bound off. I did a provisional cast on onto a spare needle, and then I actually knitted a row, because when you do that, every other one is mounted backwards, and I didn't want to have to try to cast off with that. So I knitted a row and then cast off with a super stretchy bind off. It calls for you to purl in the beginning, like a purl garter stitch. I did not do that. I just knit, and then I am up to the lace. I've started on the lace. She had placed beads at different places in the lace. I moved where I was going to put them. So basically I took the pattern and her notes and just took out little bits and changed things around from what I wanted for mine. I felt like I wanted them differently spaced, the beads. So I have changed that as well. But I had, oh goodness gracious, I had not planned on starting this. I've lost stitches. That's great in a lace weight crazy project. Minerva, don't knock over my coffee. Dang. gonna have to worry about that later. I had not planned on this, but Suburban Stitcher is going to be doing her Rainbow Along, which I'm pretty sure that I participated in last year because I remember talking to you about all the rainbow yarn that I had. But anyway, I felt like that was this project is kind of a magnum opus for me. It is lace weight. It is actual lace. It is beaded. Those are all things that I haven't done a lot of and that are hard and take concentration and take time. And also it's going to be a beaded rainbow stole, and so that's super exciting. Her Rainbow Along runs from February 1st to February 28th, and you can check that out in her Ravelry group or on her podcast. But I do not think that I could finish this whole stole in the 28 days of February. And I didn't want it to be a stressful thing. I just wanted it to be an awesome thing that I did. So whips are welcome. So I decided to go ahead and pick this up and start working on it now so that I have more of a chance to get through it. Because, oh my goodness, it is knit end to end rather than back and forth on the shorter side. So it is over 350 stitches that I'm going across. So those beaded rows take forever. Plus, I haven't done it before, so I'm really slow and kind of clumsy at it. But anyway, I have done I think 6 rows of the lace. I'm not really sure how well you're going to be able to see this just because it's lace and tiny. So basically it looks like I just have a really wide Chow-goo cable. But there are some, I have done one of the beaded rows and I'm ready. My next row will be another beaded row. And so, yeah, it is epically long. This is a 47-inch size 4 Chow-goo. This is actually, I'm using the interchangeables. I did use a fixed for my provisional cast on, and I should have used a smaller size because it was a pain in the butt to get those stitches onto the needle to be able to knit them. But I am very excited to do this. It is hard-ish. I mean, it's more of a challenge. It's not hard. It's more of a challenge for me, and sometimes we do need challenges. It's different. I'm going to be super happy to have this. I think this time of the year is a really great time to have a Rainbow Along because it is so dreary and gross outside. All of my friends right now are snowed in, and our snow is not even covering the grass, but it is snowing, but they're hogging it all. And so it's often dreary and cold in February, and so I think that it is a great time to have that extra spark of beautiful in your life. Also, I had never realized how much I like rainbows until I was mercilessly teasing in a totally friendly way Allison from Lofty Loops about her tendency to buy blue and pink yarn. Because it seems like everything that she buys is either blue or pink when we were at VKL and things like that. And she said, so she made a comment about my buying rainbow yarn. To which I'm like, I don't have that much. But then I got to thinking about it. If I separated my skeins by color, rainbow being a color, because it can't go in any other category, I would probably have more rainbow skeins than anything else. Unless you were counting like the self-striping Felici, and then maybe it would go out because not that many of them are rainbowy, but they would be hard to classify into a color. Anyway, so I really love rainbow. I'm happy to use this special skein of yarn. I love the color, and I love the stole. I do love that during the winter time, having something happy and colorful like this to work on. And it's kind of a luxury skein. It's also a souvenir skein that when I knit on it can think about my friend that I visited. And that is kind of the whole point of the souvenir skeins. I know some people don't do that, but it is something that I started doing in the more recent times, and I love it because when I knit with those things, even if it's a souvenir skein that somebody else brought me back, like my Christmas socks. Oh, that was the other finished object I did have during Vlogmas, is I knit knee-high Christmas socks. But those socks, my friend Andrea gave me the yarn when she went to Austria. And so even though I didn't go to Austria, my friend thought of me while she was there. Also, the sweater that I knit, that yarn was souvenir yarn that a lovely congregant brought me back from, that one was Spain. She's also brought me French yarn. You know, so it makes me think about the people that I was with or where they went and our adventures and all that kind of stuff. So this is a really great project and I'm excited to be doing it. It is very time consuming. I've only been doing like 1 or 2 rows at a time before I have to take a break or, you know, do something with a kid. So that is my first thing that I am doing. If you have any questions about that, then let me know. I am using a size 12 or a 1mm crochet hook to put my beads on. Like, I don't even know if you could see that. It's so tiny. It's like a needle tip. I can't see if it's ever gonna focus, but I did have like a whole set of those, so that was good. And this is in, appropriately, a rainbow bag that I did get at VKL. I did show that on my last podcast. So there's not a zipper on it, so I've been a little bit hesitant on leaving this in here. So far, nobody's bothered it. It seems like if nothing is sticking out of it, that the cats and the kids leave it alone. Alright, so that is that project. So the next thing I'm doing, well, one of my goals for this year is to knit basically do the dishcloth challenge that Yarn Hoarder is doing. And she is continuing that this year. I did count all of my skeins up and I have close to 50 skeins of dishcloth yarn. I need to use that. There's no reason, and plus it doesn't even fit in the square bin. I have stuff that doesn't fit. So and that's something that I'm gonna commit to. There's a squirrel on my porch. Doing this year. The pattern that she uses and also that I am using is Grandma's dishcloth. I believe that it's Grandma's favorite dishcloth. It is spelled Grandma. This is by PJ Allen. And it is a free pattern, so it doesn't matter what I say about stuff in it. I do the no hole version, which is what she does as well. And the reason I'm talking about that now is because I'm actually using this pattern to make a baby blanket instead of a dishcloth. There are several teachers at school who are having babies. One that I don't really know and that my kids aren't really involved with, she just had a set of twins, so I'm not really worried about that one. But my son's 2nd grade teacher last year lives across the street from us, and also her husband's grandparents go to our church, and this is her 1st great grandbaby, and so I was going to make something for her. Isaac's speech therapist is going to be having a baby, and it's her first baby, so I wanted to make something for her. And then Emma's 5th grade teacher just had her baby, actually on Isaac's birthday, December 20th. And so obviously Emma wanted to do something for her. So Emma is making a hat. I am making a blanket. I started this last night, and I started it out on a 24-inch cord, and I've moved up to a 32, and as you can see, it is already completely filling that out. I do feel like I could have gone up a needle size perhaps, and it would have been helpful, because I think that my sides are getting longer much faster than this way, and I feel like it should be more even, but I'm not entirely sure. The yarn that I'm using for this is Universal Yarn Major. It is a bulky 100% acrylic. This, the 5th grade teacher, which is who this blanket is for, she is a knitter, but also I wanted all of the yarns to be machine washable, because I don't know that anybody else would pay that much attention, and who wants to do that when you have a new baby in the house. So it is just Universal Yarns. I got this at Imagine It on Black Friday, I believe. I bought several different ones. I bought 4 actually, so that I could make some blankets for different people. It does call for a 10, and that is what I'm using. I think I meant to do a 10.5, but I don't want to rip it back. So I will see. I don't know if it's going to actually maybe come out kind of triangle-y, but this is my skein. I weighed it before I started, and it's supposed to be a 200 gram skein. It was actually 209, so there's some extra there. I am going to knit it off and on. Why is that closed when she's on the other side of it? Sorry, I'm losing my train of thoughts. Kids are very distracting. I'm going to start weighing it more as I get closer to the middle, so I can see how much the rows take, so that when you do the 3 even rows in the middle, I can make sure that that's even, and I will use up as much as possible of this yarn. I'm going to see if there's an actual colorway on this. I believe this is called Silver Blush. And interestingly, it absolutely does not look blue in the skein. Honey, you can't run into the tripod. I do think that this bottom stripe right here looks blue. A little bit, but that's okay, because her baby ended up being a boy. So, and colors are for everyone. However, I struggle with, one of the colors that I picked was a pretty dark gray, which a lot of these people are kind of trendy, and so I feel like that's okay, but also, like, it looks like a storm cloud, and I really want to make a rainbow hat to go with it, but I'm not sure how many people are as open and colors are for everyone as we are, and so I don't know that people would appreciate a rainbow hat if they did end up having a boy. So I'm struggling with the whole, like, I don't know what gender these people are having, or their openness to different colors. But anyway, this one's a boy, so I don't have to worry about it at all. Emma did start on the hat. I had cast it on for her before we went to Missouri, and she hasn't really touched it. I told her she needed to get busy, because the baby was born over 9 pounds, and so it is not going to fit in a newborn hat for super long. So she needs to get it finished so we can get this to them. That's why I cast this on last night. It is going very fast. I'm very happy with how quickly this is going, and so that I can get that to her teacher. But really, the edge does look a little bit different because you do the increases, but I don't have the holes, and I think that a little square blanket will be perfect for in the car seat, or even like tummy time type stuff. So that's something that I started last night. And then my last thing I'm super excited about, but I kind of slowed down on because whips are welcome in the Silverman Stitcher Rainbow Along. And I did want to start on that lace dancing cranes. And so I was trying to like slow down. Also, this had become a mindless project for me, and I knew that I needed a different mindless project, and that's why I went ahead and started one of the reasons that I started the blanket, because it needed to be done anyway. of my goals last year that I did not meet was to learn to brioche. I didn't do it. I was still scared. And then a bug got me, and I really, really, really immediately wanted to start brioche-ing. But I could not find exactly what I wanted. I wanted a hat. I wanted a 2-color brioche hat that was completely plain until you got up to the decreases. There was nothing like that. The Harlow hat was suggested to me. I do not like the top of it and how it stands up off the head like this. That was not attractive to me. I don't know if you pulled it down and folded it up, if it would look better, but I don't want to do that either. I didn't care for how it looked finished, and so I didn't want to make that. And when I was at KPS with Allison, someone suggested that I try to do a cowl, because that again is a very simple straight up and down, and especially like gauge does not matter at all, things like that. So the next day I did go looking for the perfect cowl, and I found After the Rain Brioche Cowl by Joy McMillan. And immediately started it. I did also change this one around. It immediately goes into the brioche, the 2-color brioche. However, the mini skein set that she was using was like 12 colors, and the one that I was using was 5. They were 20-gram minis, and hers I think were probably 10, but I was concerned that it wouldn't be as deep as I would want it, or even as deep as hers. So I wanted to add some of the cream color that I'm using beforehand. So instead of learning how to 2-color brioche right away, I had to learn how to 1-color. This is leftover Cascade Heritage that I had in my stash, this cream color. And so I did do about 5 rows of 1-color brioche. And then I am using the Color Riot Neon Lights mini skein set in Phyllis Sock, which is 75/25 from Hue Logo. And I have gotten into all the colors. Let me show it this way maybe. This has been so much fun. I have not been able to put it down. It is something I want to constantly work on. Whenever I am brioching, I have to literally force myself to stop, to do other things, like obsessively, like I cannot stop, I just need to keep going, or I'll think, oh, I'm to the beginning, I'm just gonna do a couple of stitches so that I can secure my beginning of round marker, and then the next thing I know, I'm coming back to the beginning of round marker. Like, I have been brioching my brains out. I love it so much. I'm so excited about it. I actually am considering trying to design my own hat, because I want the hat that I want. And it surprisingly does not exist on Ravelry, which is very disappointing, but also, like, I'm ready. The other thing is that I want to finish this cowl, then I want the perfect hat, which I'm gonna need to design, and then I want to wet the fade. I want to wet the fade so bad. I have been trying to force myself to stay out of the yarn cabinet and going in there and trying to find the fade that I want, because I have already gotten so distracted this year, which is completely fine. I'm the boss of my own knitting, but I do have 2 sweaters on the needles that I really want to finish. Speaking of which, that's the other thing that I was going to show you. Hey Mike, will you get my flamingo bag? It's on the rocking chair in the library. Forgot that I have worked on that since you've seen it, so I'm going to go ahead and show it. The What the Fade is an enormous project. If you don't know, it is by Andrew Mowry. It was a mystery knit along. It is 2-color brioche fade and then a garter fade. It is beautiful. It's like a 6-skein shawl. So all of those things, thank you, I really want to do. And I also kind of am hesitant because I'm like, should a What the Fade be my 3rd brioche project? Or even should a hat that I'm designing myself be my 2nd brioche project? It does not seem like that should be either, but I love it. It is like, as an adult, when you get on a swing and you're just swinging and all of your cares just kind of float away. You're not helping podcasts at all. The rhythm of the brioche, it's therapeutic. It is so much fun. I cannot believe that I waited as long to do this as I did. But I am so into it. I'm so excited by it. I absolutely love it. And I'm going to love this cowl. I would say that, so this rainbow kind of doesn't include the yellow, but I would also say that the orange and the green are very yellowish colors. The only complaint that I would really have about it is that I do feel like when I was knitting the orange, there were places that it looked actually yellow, which ended up making it look this tonal. And this tonal is kind of nice because, I mean, it kind of almost looks like fire because of the tonalness. But none of the other skeins have that quality, and so it looks a little bit strange that has like tonal stripes in it and nothing else really does. I mean, you can I feel like there's a little bit darker of a blue in there, but it's not like the orange. So I'm not super thrilled about that, but truthfully, I don't think that you're really gonna care or see much of it once it's all squished together. But I'm super excited. Here is the inside, which I am just as excited about. I think if you're wanting a more subtle thing, apparently my friends are not as into neon as I am. I don't know why, but apparently they're not. So there is a more subtle side that you could use. Yeah. I am absolutely loving this. I would recommend this pattern. It's very well written. I mean, it is the first time that I've brioche, and I was not with anyone to kind of help me get going or anything. I did Instagram message my VKL roomies, Julia and Allison, just like when I was trying to decide if I could make this 1 color extra in there, and I will be putting that 1 color extra at the top as well, just to give it a little bit length. Turns out though, I probably didn't need to do that because these minis were a little bit more than 20 ounces each, and so it evened out enough that I probably didn't have to have that extra, but I think it does also kind of give it a finish. The designer actually used a gray with hers, and her colors weren't really neon, so it was a much more subtle rainbow than mine is, but I really like loud rainbows, so that's what I'm doing. If you have not tried brioche and you know how to knit and purl, I would suggest doing it. It is the best thing. It is my favorite thing I've ever done with knitting. Yeah. I can't think of another technique that I think is cooler than that. I love it. Fantastic. And I feel so accomplished. I did this. Anyway, as someone who's been knitting for a while now, I taught myself, if you are not aware, when I was pregnant with Isaiah, and he will be 9 in March. So I've been knitting for 9 years. Goodness. It's been a while since I've felt this excited and accomplished with something knitted. I do feel really great when I dye something and it comes out nicely. That is another way that I feel accomplished, but a lot of the other times I'm really happy with a project or something, but not as like, yes, I did this, as I am about brioche. But okay. So that was all of the ones that I had written down for, oh, and I also should mention, I guess, I am knitting these on a size 3. And you definitely want a bare cord because that thing is as many stitches as a sweater would be around, and it bunches a ton. So I had not written down this other project, other whip, because I haven't worked on it. I was just like gathering the things that I had worked on since Vlogmas ended. Also, this is in my yarn monster bag. That was part of the collaboration with Little Bitty Lights and Lofty Lips. And it is perfect because it is snowy outside. Anyway, so this particular thing, oh, I do have the pattern. So this is Parisian Delights, or no, that's like Turkish Delights on Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Parisian Dreams by Knitting Expat. Here she is wearing the sweater in black and white, so you can't really see it. It has a lace front. I did show it some on Vlogmas, but I was going to see Allison one day, and we had kind of like made this a little bit of a competition. It's friendly. We had bought the yarn together at Stephen B at VKL, and we both started it on the same day. So we were having like a little roommate type VKL competition. Anyway, so I knew that I was going to see her the first week of January. And so I was kind of sneakily knitting on it, trying to finish it, because what I really wanted to do was like record myself walking up to her house and be wearing it so I could like record her reaction when I like walk in and I have my sweater on. And so I wasn't showing it on Vlogmas because she was watching and I didn't want her to know that. However, that did not work out because I got so far on it that, well, I'll show it to you. So the last time you saw it, it was pretty far down the body. I have, sorry, strings. I have completed the body. It's all here. Wow, you can really see that line right there. Dang. Hopefully that isn't as bad when I block it. And I have started on the sleeve. Sleeves bother my wrists. They always do. And I was knitting like a fiend on this, and then it was just bothering me too much. Once I get further into the sleeves, like from here to probably like here on a sleeve, hurt my wrists because the weight of it, no matter how you do it, kind of still hangs on that wrist, and that's the one that I've had surgery on before, so it doesn't really like sleeves. Which is part of the reason that Sleeve Island sucks for me, because I do tend to slow down. Once I get past that point and it's literally just the sleeve that can turn back and forth instead of having the weight of the sweater, like the sweater is completely stationary and it's only the sleeve part that's moving, then it doesn't bother my wrist and I can get them done really fast. But I got to the point that I needed to take a rest from this sleeve because it was bothering my wrist. My wrist is still being bothered from that. It's been bothering me since I put this down. Not as bad though. So I haven't really worked on it since then, but I did want to show it to you since I hadn't showed it to you in a while. I've been thinking about this as I'm working on other things, however. In the picture of her wearing this, what did I do with the pattern? I'll show you the front page. Sorry for the crinkling. Oh, you can't see it all. Let me see if there's a better place. Okay, so you can kind of see, and this is the information page, so it's not really giving anything away that's not on the pattern page anyway. Her sweater her sleeve starts here. It is that far down her shoulder. You can also see that the neckline is pretty open. You might be able to see that. You can see on the main page how open her neckline is. And that the sleeve is clear down her arm. So, this is really straight right now. It hasn't been blocked, but obviously it looks like it stops pretty close to the edge of my shoulder, and the neckline looks tiny to me. It is, you know, decently stretchy, but well, now it's a little bit stretched out, but it does look pretty small. So what I have decided to do is I'm going to get all the way through the decreases on my sleeve when I pick it back up, and then I'm going to block it. I'll put it on waste yarn and I'm going to block it out because I want to make sure that this lace is going to open up a ton. And truthfully, even the regular yarn on the back is going to. A lot of my superwash, well, a lot of my sweaters, because they're all superwash, tend to grow quite a bit. And so I want to see where everything is before I finish my sleeves. I'm 5'9", so I tend to try to make my sleeves longer. I want to make sure that I'm not going to look like a complete box and have that seam right here. I think it will end up going down, but before I start measuring out sleeve, like trying it on and measuring it out, I feel like I need to block it. So I don't normally do it that way, and I will tend to, if my sleeve is a bit long, then I will roll it down and have it like that. I don't really want to do that because there is a lot of twisted rib in this pattern, and that is a major design feature in the pattern. And so if I turn my sleeves wrong side out, like roll down the cuffs, you're not going to see that. So I don't really want to do that. I want to make sure that it fits nicely and is perfect, so I will be blocking that before I go any further on them after I get through those decreases, and then I can kind of plan out for the second one. I am alternating. You can see the line. In person, I don't feel like it's as drastic, but this skein at the bottom did seem like it ended pretty dark, and then the next skein was pretty light. I am alternating now. That is probably part of the reason that the sleeves are also kind of bugging me more, just having to twist at certain points to make sure you're getting back to your yarn or whatever. But anyway, so I hadn't showed that. I did want to show it. I am in love with this yarn. Here you can see kind of the patterning a lot more. It is the Huntsman by House of a la Mode, if you did not watch Vlogmas. Knitting this, going around the inside, you know, like my fingers touch the inside of my knitting. It is so soft. I love it. This blue, it is to die for. I don't normally knit something that is tan at all. Like, I usually do not touch anything that even has a hint of brown to it. I don't know if it's because I've really been getting into the olive green that now the tans don't seem as bad to me. I still don't like brown. But this is beautiful. And this blue, I don't feel like it is as bright on the camera right now as it is in person. However, sometimes when I go to edit the video, it is actually more true to color than it looks like when I'm recording. But I'm very excited to have that sweater. It is part of my Finish 9 because I think it's going to be a gorgeous addition. I just have not worked on it because of the whole wrist sleeve combination. I do believe that that is all of the whips that I have to talk to you about. I should put my pattern back in there so I don't lose it. I was also going to just mention quickly what I'm wearing. The shawl that I'm wearing is Make Your Own Luck. It was part of the most recent Point Counterpoint collection. And this particular one is by Paper Daisy Creations, who is Lisa Ross. It is a beautiful, also rainbow shawl. It used 10 different colors. One of the reasons I love this is because it's beautiful. It has all the colors in it, but also I dyed all of the yarns for this, and so I'm very happy with my colors and how they turned out. And it's the first thing that I really dyed up and like made something awesome out of. The other thing that I'm wearing is my long line cardigan, somewhere under here. That is a Hohi pattern, and it is out of One Twisted Tree, who is no longer dyeing. I do have quite a bit more of her yarn, so you'll still be seeing stuff from her, even though I don't think you can really get stuff anymore. Also, the long line, I had a little bit left over, and I was just a tiny bit short in my shawl for the gray single that I was using, so I actually used the yarn that I used for my long line to finish up one end of this shawl. And truthfully, I don't even know which end it was anymore, because I can't remember where I ended. Probably on this thingamajig. Nope, other way. Anyway. Okay, so something else that I was going to talk about, I did mention that I went through and organized my yarn, and that I had 539 skeins. That was my final count. I did not include partial skeins, and I did not count any bare yarn for dyeing that was not intended to go into my stash. So I do have those 10 DK bare skeins that are to be my my Comfort Fade Cardi. And so I did count those because those are intended to be stash yarn. I did not count other things that I have to dye that if I dye them and they go into my stash, then they count. But if I put them on Etsy or something, then they will not count. So I have a lot of yarn. I have a lot of stuff that I need to knit for. I do have a small pile of things that I don't love, that I know off the top of my head, I don't really like this or whatever. Pretty much all of that was from clubs. You know, and that's part of the mystery. Sometimes you're going to love it, sometimes you're not. So I do have a little bit of a pile that I will be thinking about destashing. I am considering going through all of the other yarn and like KonMariing it and seeing, you know, does this one bring me joy? Is this something I really want to knit with, and maybe getting a few more out that way? Basically, I have a goal this year of stashing down. I am not on a yarn diet. Diets are dumb anyways. Like, I can't even quit Pepsi for my diet. So, I'm not like I'm going to be able to quit yarn. My goal, though, is to have more skeins going out than I have coming in, so that I end up with a net loss, whether that is destashing, whether that is knitting them up, however that is happening. I want more to be used or going somewhere where it can be loved more than I have coming in. I counted everything that I had ordered before the end of the year as part of the 539. Just today, I was thinking there may be a few skeins in the basement that weren't counted, but I don't know. Anyway, so I will be keeping track of that and working towards that goal, because I want my skeins to be loved and not just like collecting dust. Lofty Loops and I are considering doing a like joint stash down type thing, but we have not worked out the details of that. I personally think it would be fun for you guys to bet on who will have the biggest net loss in their stash, and then whichever one of us loses has to dye a skein of yarn for, by random number generator, somebody who bet on the other person, because I think that would be fun. And turning all these little ridiculous things into competitions has been fun. Anyway, so we are considering like doing a few different things as part of a stash down that you could participate in if you would like. We have not figured out those details, and we'll be working on those soon. But if you would like to join, you are more than welcome. You do not have to count your skeins. Allison did not count her skeins. I did because I wanted to know, and it kind of blew my mind. I had no idea that there were that many. Truth be told, there are a lot of skeins of like Knit Picks Felici and Stroll, which are 50 gram skeins, and it takes 2 to make a pair of socks, and so there's 2 of like lots of colors. And that's probably 150 of the skeins are those little 50 grams that you're not really going to use as something more, but I counted each skein. So some of that, you know, 1 pair of socks will take 2 skeins, and that will work out in my favor. But it is still an enormous amount of yarn, and I didn't realize there was that much. So I am excited to be loving on my yarn a little bit more and not just having a collection of pretties. And I have really kind of gotten out of the habit of buying impulsively most of the time. I have not had as much yarn porn to share with you in the last like 4 or 5 months. But I do want to be more mindful and appreciative of what I have in my knitting cabinet, what I use, and just really make sure that it is left. So if you're interested in doing a stash down, I would encourage you to count up your yarn. It may just help you to see what you have. And also, if you're kind of sorting it out or something, because I did sort mine by the different weights so I could put it back into my cabinet in an organized fashion, and that way I can just kind of go to the shelf that has the stuff that I need. But maybe you don't need an organization. Maybe you don't have that much. It also helped me see, as I was kind of flipping through, that there were some skeins that I didn't love, and so I think that those may be getting rehomed. Anyway, I would encourage you to count it if you would like, because it may tell you something. It may also tell you, wow, I have 8,000 skeins of this pink yarn, and 3 of them are literally the same thing. Not naming names, but you know who you are. And also, it kind of inspired me, because there were a few things that I saw, and I was like, I remember getting this. I remember what it's for. I really want to make that. Things like that. But in general, you don't have to know what your starting number is. It would be nice if you could, you would probably need to keep track of how many you got out of your stash for the month and how many went out. So that is, did I say in and out, or did I say one or the other twice? I don't remember. Anyway, I would encourage you to start kind of like looking at that if you would like to participate in a stash down. I am going to be pretty into that, no matter what we do as a group collective type prize thing. So I believe that is all the knitting content. As far as life this past week since Vlogmas ended, first of all, I went through withdrawal. I had gone through withdrawal already when everybody else stopped Vlogmasing. I got very used to seeing people every single day, and then not seeing them was kind of like, I don't know what they're doing. Kind of made me feel a little bit like a stalker, but also like I missed my friends. The knitting podcast world is kind of my tribe, and I really love that, and I appreciate that, and so then I kind of had a feeling of missing that. Then when I uploaded my last Vlogmas, which I extended into Epiphany, and I'm not sure that anybody else went quite that long, but that was a whole thing. Anyway, as I was uploading the last one of that, I was kind of sad that it was over. I wasn't really burnt out on it. There were times that I was like, I can't even right now. But I did enjoy this past, like basically from Christmas on, it was less Vlogmas and more year in review, make 9, finish 9, yarn organization, all kinds of those types of things that it wasn't just like following me around the house. It was more content based for the most part. So if you did want to go back and watch those, if you're more interested in knitting-ish things, those are the things that are more kind of were closer to being like a podcast, though they kind of did have like one topic that I was talking about. One of the things that I did do was Melia Bella on Instagram had a yarn organization. She used a photo like organizing tote thingy to organize her different circular needles. I kind of copied her, except instead of going to Michael's and getting a clear one, I got a rainbow one off of Amazon. It was slightly more expensive than what hers was, and using like a 40% off coupon, but my Michael's is probably significantly further away than hers is. I can see that somebody has put milk on this. That's great. My Michael's is over an hour away, and there's no guarantee that they're going to have anything like that, because it seems like it's very random what they do and they don't have. See if I can get the shine to go back over that milk so I don't look like a gross person. So anyway, I did pay probably $5 more than she did for hers with her coupon, but mine's rainbow. So that's okay with me. And it came straight to my house, and I probably would have used $5 worth of gas to go to Michael's anyways, and who knows if they would have had it. Anyway, I did talk about this on Christmas 9 or 10. It has come in handy a couple times already, as I was looking for a particular size or could find out if I had a particular size of circular needle. But each one of these come out, and then I labeled them with washi tape, also a rainbow. I don't know that you can really read that, but like these are my size zeros, I believe. Oh, no. Looking at this in the mirror, or not in the mirror, in the phone is mirrored, so that was actually my 6s, but like these are my zeros. I did get the Velcro ties like she did to wrap them up. Obviously on the ones, or the zeros, it doesn't really matter, but like for instance, this is my 1 bin. This is what I knit my socks on, so I have quite a few, and so having that kind of contains them and keeps them in place. And it just has like these little shelfy things that you can stick them in there. I put the millimeter size and the US size because, for instance, like the Addy Flexi Flips that say they are size 1 are really size 1.5 because they are 2.25 millimeters. And I go by that when it is differing from the accepted use of whatever US size it is. But you can kind of, that's most of the information, but if you did want to go back to Christmas 9 and 10, that's when I talked about this needle organization, and I really love it, and it's going to be great for keeping stuff organized and easy to find, because, you know, even if you have like a wad of needles, you're like digging through them, it's impossible to find the right size. So I'm excited about that. So other than that, I am going to try to do weekly podcasts. I'm not sure how well that's going to work out. I kind of mentioned that before. I'm going to try to find a day that works really well. Today, Saturday is probably not the day it would be, because I don't really want to have to put on makeup on Saturdays when I am not doing something else. I want to spend all day knitting and doing nothing else. So I'm going to try to find a day that works the best for me and kind of stick to that, but in general, I'm going to try to get one out every week, and we'll see how that goes for 2019. Other news in my life this past week, I did start my human relations course. It is something that is required to get a local substitute license in the state of Nebraska to be a substitute teacher. I have been being a substitute paraprofessional, and the human relations is, at least this week, was mostly about race and ethnicity diversity, and which has kind of been interesting considering how Instagram has really blown up with conversations about these same things in the knitting community. So I am doing that. It's an 8-week course, and then I will have my local substitute certificate so that I can use that. Great. The other thing that we did this week is we did start a foster care class. Nebraska also requires you to do a class to get licensed for that. I had not intended to be licensed. We had started looking into being able to do respite for my 2 nephews that are living with my mother. And because they are kin, we could do respite for them, but we also wanted, as we were having these discussions, we wanted to also open our home to other kids who may need support and love in our area. Not on a permanent not on a actual placement basis, but as an emergency placement or to provide respite to foster care homes in our area. I feel like we're kind of out in the country and I don't really know people who are doing foster care in this area, and so I had the idea that it's possible that if kids are being removed from homes in this area, that they could be going to Omaha or Lincoln. So not only are they being taken out of their actual home, but they are leaving their communities. And we believe that we're called to love the orphans and the widows and all of those things, and stepping up to help the least of those is exactly what we were called to do. And so that's what we are looking into. All the agencies told us that we had to be licensed to provide emergency care placement, which is temporary, or even respite. So we started that class this week, and that will be long and interesting. We've already had to do the self-studies and the home studies and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a lot. That is pretty much what our week has been. I did substitute this week, which is why I didn't podcast yesterday. Other than that, it's just been your typical knitting and taking care of kids type of week. Sunday school does start back up tomorrow. We've had a little bit of a break over Christmas and New Year's, which I know that I needed because I'm a little bit burnt out. Yeah, so starts back tomorrow. We're having a baptism. It's going to be fun. But just getting back into the swing of things takes a little bit. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me today. And if there's anything that you want to know about, let me know. I would be happy to answer questions or talk about particular subjects. You can join me on the Ravelry group. Please remember to subscribe. It helps other people find the podcast. I don't know how all the algorithms happen, but if you have more subscribers, you are more likely to show up in people's suggested feeds, things of that nature. But I am so happy that you were here today and shared your knitting time with me. It is a great privilege to be part of your tribe and to be your friend, because quite honestly, even though there's tons of people on YouTube that either watch me or that I watch, that I've never met, and likely many of you I won't, I really found that when I started listening and watching podcasts that I really found my friends, and that I consider everyone who watches my friend and very special to me. You support me, and that is so absolutely appreciated, and I just love every single one of you for it. And I'm so glad that you enjoy or like me enough to let me be a part of your knitting adventures, because that is a huge privilege that I absolutely understand how precious that time is, and that you would share it with me is just a blessing. Anyway, I hope to see you next week, and I hope that you keep warm, and if you are someone who is hogging all of the snow, you should learn to share. Otherwise, I think that is it. Thank you for joining me today, and I will